Are you tired of being awesome alone? Well, so am I, but Tyra doesn't care. She has to teach tonight. So I've got Kevin here. We're going to go be awesome together. Oh, man, I am calling it flying solo. I know I have Kevin here with me, but Tyra is not here to stop me from all my shenanigans and answering all the questions that come our way. So I threw out an AMA tonight. We did have a guest originally, and unfortunately they canceled. But Kevin said, hey, I'll come catch some questions and throw some softballs your way or hard balls or whatever you do, Kevin. You got to come do more. Yeah. Yeah. Over halfway. It is a countdown. It's a real thing. So tonight it's two things I want to address real quick is or a couple things. I'll just say a couple of things I want to address. So it's like a sermon. What announcements do I have to make before I start preaching? I am in the midst of swapping up I don't know what I'm going to call it. Maybe Awesome Studios here, but I'm changing my studio around. I've got a couch coming in. I've got my recliner right there off screen, and it's just everything's kind of a mess. I'm still on the Anchor camera. It's okay. Got some okay lighting, but ultimately, when it's done, I'll have a real full talk studio going on here at the house. Second thing is when things shift up, and we all know I don't forget. I mean, I don't forget. I don't remember anything. I forget everything. So I had somebody reach out to me, and I want to call them out in case it irritates them. So I'm not going to irritate them because it was not them to be irritated. But somebody reached out like, "Hey, do you have a plan for the show?" I was like, "No, Tyra does that." Like, well, Tyra's out. And okay, I went into recovery mode, right? And that's something that most people don't see in me or see me do is they that same person offered me a guest, but it's somebody I hadn't really interacted with much, I hadn't talked to much. And you know, when you go in recovery mode, it's very much okay, I need to do something I am very comfortable in because I was not I'm never prepared for anything hardly. But I mean I kind of am, but it's that's not the point. So you know, just wanted to explain that to my awesome people out there and why that's my little neuroses of yeah, when things shift fast, I just really go with the old standbys of what I know what to do. Next thing, Kevin, you even mentioned it to me pre-show, is that the digital media track submissions are closing in what about a week and a half? It's the end of March. So if you want to get your submissions in, your ideas in, now's the time. Oh, I was going to check and see if we can make an announcement because there are some cool things going on, but you know, until the con announces it, I can't necessarily do it. But let's see if that announcement is here on the website. It is not. It is not on the website yet, so I cannot talk about some coolness that is coming. But there's some coolness coming. All right, that's a lot of that. We've got some questions going on. Gary Lindros, how are you doing, bud? You're here. I love it. The real Gary. There's an AMA question. Who's the fake Gary? I see that he says that, but I hear you just fine. So I go ahead and talk again. Yeah, that's weird. All right, I'm gonna do something different here. All right. Talk to me and see if you hear yourself back. What's going on there? That is weird. So new software, new kind of things going on here. Try again. So I hear you through my speaker. Oh wait. That's not on my end. That's right. That's right. My end's recording. That end is a broadcast, so it's definitely should be picking you up. I can hear you. So Cause I'm sure is watching live. Maybe Cause can send me something in the back end. Uh, so I don't know what's going on there. So use sign language, okay? Let's go there. Use some sign language. But I can hear you, and I'm only listening to you through the stream, which is the broadcast. So I forgot that only the recording I'm messing with on my side. So I've got some questions to kick us off here from Joseph underscore Ard of Wise and Nerdy. First question is, how do I become a volunteer at Dragon Con? You kind of got to know somebody. Actually, you don't have to know anybody. Uh, Kevin, have you interacted with many of the volunteers in the past? Uh, I took an interesting path that I didn't really come to the con ever just to enjoy. I told that story. Came in for another company to see what was different that might be applied to a different con. Then the next year, I came in as a pro for a year or two, and then after that, I became a volunteer and then director and so on. But how you become a volunteer, it does help to know somebody, or you can go online to dragoncon.org, and I believe it's become, I'll just have to leave that site open here. I believe it is, yeah, participate. And the very first one is volunteer. And then you can apply right there. And it talks about the different things that we look for in volunteers, dress codes. There's a whole list of guidelines and rules down at the bottom. And it's got the applications there. And actually, that closes really close to con. It is really close. I don't see a date here right now of when it's closing, but it's gonna be open for a little while. Then you go in when you do your application, you list off the tracks that you're interested in. It does help if you know somebody, if you've talked to a way to, if you find a way to do it, talk to the track director. Like most of, well, not most, all of my volunteers come through basically Discord in our community. Uh, because if I go to the meeting, which you can do, we have a volunteer meeting coming up Saturday afternoon at 4 p.m. at the Hyatt. Is the volunteer meeting. You can go there as well. And there'll be a bunch of directors with their signs holding up. They'll get on the stage and say, hey, this is how many volunteers we're looking for. Here's our pitch for why you should join our track and come be awesome with us. And that's another way to do it. And like I took my son last year and he went and talked to a couple different tracks and ended up in the gaming track and got to do that. And so um it's just different ways. If you just do it blind, you'll probably end up in security or tech ops, because those are the huge departments. I think tech ops had 320 openings last year. Like, that's their entirety, compared to digital media, which has 9. We have 9 slots, and I'm one of them. So we have 8 other slots to fill in digital media. They have 300 plus to fill, and they do need help. It's a really awesome department to be in. So, have you ever thought about volunteering? Oh yeah. Okay. That's cool. There was a, I'm very, I've mellowed out a little bit in my experiences, but I'm very much that guy to show that when you're running the show, more or less, people shouldn't know you exist. And I've run many shows that's how you have to do it. Yeah, I literally disappeared in an open room for the historic Black colleges group in Atlanta, and as in, I'm a huge white guy, obviously. But you just bring your energy down. You stay back in the corner behind the booth. You don't say anything. You don't do anything. You wait till the show's over. You go change the microphones out. basically you're just there to help. And I went to a panel at Dragon Con, and it was in one of the bigger rooms in the Marriott, and it was a smaller crowd. They were spread out, wasn't a full room or anything. And it killed me because the tech ops person was sitting there, no stage whispering, right? It wasn't, hey, what this goes, because that still bothers me, but I get it. Sometimes you're going to say, but we're not here to have a conversation. You're there to run the show. And people sometimes forget that they were talking at this level and talking about what they did last week or what show they're expecting. And I kind of looked at them and went, hey, cut it out, man. You're distracting me from the panel over here. But that, and I put that in there and just said, they need an education. And I saw that person come, they still come every year. So perhaps they just got a little, which is always needed. Hey, Kevin, don't sit in the show and talk. Just run the board. You'll be good. But yeah, it's, if you do it right, I get, the track, we get feedback every year from the app. We had 998 responses last year. So this year we got to get 2 more and get 1,000 minimum. We got to get that 1,000 responses. It just killed me to be too short. And if it's, would you say, Kevin, that feedback, because you work in an industry where feedback is constant, either from the bosses or from the clients or whatever, would you say all positive is good, all negative is good, or some kind of mix in between? Hey, it is. I find that all positive. I mean, cool. You be honest. If you really loved it, that's great. 5s across the board. Numbers are cool. But when it's like they're the best, well, one, asking for a bigger room helps a little bit, but not a lot. But if that's all you put, they need a bigger room. They need a big. Tell me something else that was good. Okay, that would be helpful. But if you're going to be negative, definitely talk about these are some of the nice things I like, but you asked me to be honest. So here's what I didn't like, or like I did that feedback of, just in tech ops, let's mention to the people not to talk through the shows, but yeah, I agree with you. By the way, I know I told a negative story a little bit, but I love tech ops. They are phenomenal. And every room I walk into, they're super helpful and nice. And it's great. Um, all negative. I hated it. Okay. All right. Would you like to hear a crazy one? Okay. So I'm going to paraphrase it, but this was for Blurred Out. Now the title is Blurred, Black Nerds, right? Blurred in Out, like the letter N. And it's based off the Wild and Out uh, comedy battle that is on, I believe it's BET with Baby Daddy, Nick Cannon, and Max is here. Tyra going, "Oh my God, don't call him Baby Daddy." Uh, but it's got a little bit of description about that, but descriptions are very short. So if you don't, I guess if you just don't know what it is, you could look it up. But I literally got a comment. It's like, well, maybe the description should be a little bit more because I'm white and I don't know this comedy, and it wasn't bad. I just didn't understand what I was walking into, and I was like, okay, that's I don't know how to help with that. And they marked they've never come back to that panel again. And I was like, okay, now, I'm not hurt by that. There are almost 1,000 other panels to go to over the weekend at Dragon Con. cool, it wasn't for you. But I didn't understand literally they said I'm white. I didn't understand that this was going to be black comedy. I was like, okay. Mm. Yeah, see, that's valuable feedback. Shanda Panda, who just followed on Twitch. Thank you, Shanda. What's wrong with black comedy? That's exactly. Uh, not for me is a great response. It really is. Yeah, there's been a few panels where I thought it was one thing and it was different, and I just say not for me. That's on me. I didn't do my research, but I'll be honest. I tend to throw those kind of responses out, and I don't do statistics. I've tried to help my kids learn it. That's as far as I've gotten as basic high school statistics. But I know there's a curve, right? And you basically chop off the ends of extremes, and what you have in the middle is more or less what's valuable there. So, all right. Do you have a question, Kevin?
Question for you. I would say, what do you think has been the most exciting thing about the evolution of the digital media track? Like since it became since it evolved from the podcasting track?
That I didn't fail. That's it's so scary, man. It was. I am. I don't know how to say it without sounding like an arrogant asshole, but I am the rock god of podcasting, so that's kind of my nature. Is I just don't have a belief that I'm wrong or that I'm going to fail, but I still get those not imposter syndrome because I don't have that, but the thoughts of, but what if you're wrong? And I'm just happy I wasn't. Every idea I brought to the table, and I focus on what I believe is the right things. Inclusion. I never believe I could just do it myself. That's one thing I've hated about digital media, period. If there's any one thing I'd hate is when somebody says, oh, this is the only way to do it. And I got to be the face of it every single step. And I have ragged on publicly, called out networks that all 12 shows are the same person. That's not a network. That's just you doing a dozen podcasts. Fine, but that's not a network. And to build a class on that, I'll just stop on my high horse there. And I've always almost had the I'm not good enough syndrome where it's like, well, I'll never do it on my own. So that weakness built a strength that said, let's include all walks of life and all visions and everything I can do. And essentially, I just focus on opening the door. And I get the credit every year, and I just don't feel like it's my credit to get. I want to say, that's what I tell everybody. Somebody compliments you, you just say thank you. And I say thank you. But if it weren't for people like you and Bobby Blackwolf and hissing and kissing and I cannot remember Jenna Garrett. I know I have her moderate a lot, but I don't remember who actually brought the inclusion panels and AUA. I can never say it's all D&D, AUHD&D.
Mm.
And I can't do those panels. And when it was the podcasting track, I give them kudos. I think they did what they knew, but it was very Frog Pants heavy. I like Frog Pants Studios. I like all their creators. I thought it's cool. And I know that they wish I believe and infer that wish they could do more. They just didn't have the time or energy or whatever. I like that you don't know. Well, in my opinion, nobody looks at the digital media track and goes, that's wise and nerdy, or that's just Charles's inner circle, or whatever the term would be. I like that somebody can come in to your panel, Kevin, and only come to that panel and love it, and that's their experience on a digital media track. And I can't do what you do.
Yeah, but I think what you are doing is creating that space and making it a space where different voices can come in and do the thing. So if people are complimenting you, they're complimenting you for that, because I think not every person in your position would necessarily do that. So I think
No, you're right. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'll pat myself on the back. No.
yeah.
But no, you're right. There are people who very much control and try to drive. And I couldn't, I'd have to do a lot of digging and soul searching to figure out where I got this from. But the whole idea of the show is what's important. I don't know where I got that from or how young I was when I got it, but that drives everything. It's if I want to showcase myself, I will build that show and I'll build it to my strengths. I do Fandom Face Off, a game of bad decisions. And I build that to showcase my style of comedy, my sense of humor, and it works. And but it's a 1 hour little thing. I feel like if I try to make 35 panels off of that, it won't work. But I don't want to see that. I want to see you doing, I think you were on some drama panels last year and some other panels. I want to see the Blurds panel. I can't do the Blurds panel.
I love the Blurred panel. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's the best.
Just because it's coming from a place that I don't have any experience with. So I get to learn things. It's awesome.
Yeah. Somebody one day somebody told me I should do a Hispanic panel. I'm like, I need some people who understand Hispanic culture to pitch it. I will absolutely make a way. So yeah, you're right. I guess what I'm really doing is making a way. It's somebody when people don't, I don't mean at Dragon Con at all, but like in life, how I do anything is how I do everything. So what I do with Dragon Con, I take to all my other projects, no matter what kind of business it is. And I build communities and I connect people. And somebody who just didn't get what I did and just couldn't see past the tip of their nose, and one of the companies I was working in said, "You work so hard to never do any work." And I'm like, I do the part I like, which I like to mentor people. I like to grow people. I like to see people come to their fruition, to come be awesome. And if I had to, you know why there's a minimum of 35 tracks or 35 time slots you have to do from Thursday to Monday morning. And there's a minimum because there's people who just try to build everything themselves and don't invite their community in. And I just don't get that. Now, I will do all the work. Also, the fun part in me is okay, it's going to sound bad, but I'm going to explain. But the fun part of me is saying, no, you're not ready. Because I think the worst thing we can do is let somebody take center stage or take the table or the panel or whatever you want to call it, and they're not ready, but they can be, that they want to be. So I'll give them feedback. I'll help them if they want to listen. And what I really love to see from that really is the part B. It's not the first part of saying no. It's the part B of seeing them come back and refine and come back and do better and go, okay, now you're ready. Because I know what it's like to sit at a table and have nobody in the room. And that's probably a lot more difficult. In my opinion, the way everybody thinks about panels is backwards. People get scared like, oh, what if I have too many people? And they get that stage fright. My brain works differently. It's like, but from a work standpoint, what if you have two people and you've got to entertain those two people and yourself for an hour because we're recording and live streaming? That's tough. So I'd like you to be ready for that. And I think maybe next year as we're growing and so we'll start doing some, well, part of Be Awesome Together is training people how to do it. But maybe we'll put together some more actual, like little videos people can go through and see of how to get there. Tell me how to get Sesame Street. You gotta go through Dragon Con.
I have to assume, like, as a track director, because I noticed this with a lot of the tracks, like you want to be open to bringing new people in. I don't find most of the tracks to be all that clicky, but I do think, you also have to be cognizant of the fact that people have paid to attend Dragon Con, so they're going to attend these panels. You want to make sure it's a valuable experience for them. And if you've worked with people in the past and they can deliver, then you're like, oh yeah, well, I'll absolutely put this person on a bill. So I think it's a mix, but I don't know. My experience with your track, before I was an attending pro, I just pitched you an idea for a panel one year about video production. And I said, hey, I think this would be cool. I think we could talk about these things. And you let me run with it. And I thought it was pretty good. The lesson I learned on that one was we had too many panelists, because I wanted to bring in a lot of voices, but then I felt like, by the time everyone introduced themselves, I was like, okay, we're 20 minutes in. But I refined from there. And we did a similar panel the next year with 5 panelists. And I thought it was great.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was great. And I can't remember if that was year. It all blends together, right? But what I always try to do is bring just different perspectives, because if the theme behind how I program the track, there's two running themes. One is you just got to trust the process. And I'm the process. To trust the process. Feel safe with me. I know that I'm not going to put you in a position that I know you can't handle. And if you I'm open to feedback. If somebody's like, no, I cannot do. I'm making this up. I cannot do after 8 because after 8 p.m. I'm full anxiety. Can do. Okay, sure, I get that. I'll put you at 11 a.m. That's fine. But I try to go get names that aren't on panels, or names that I think I did this at least with a video panel, maybe not yours specifically, but you're talking about editing and producing and this kind of thing. Let me go search the data. Oh, this person is a director and producer. Let me see if they'll jump on. And this person does YouTube video. Let me see. That's a different level of producing. Let me see if they'll jump on. And I just try to paint these puzzle pieces and make this picture where all these voices just work so well together. And if you trust the process, it usually works out. I really hate resistance. I tried to hide that. When somebody comes back, it's like, well, I just rather not. Let me have my 4 people. Okay. And I do. I almost physically put up my hands when I read the email and go, okay, I trust that you're going to have an okay panel. I know it'd have been an amazing experience if you just trusted me, but you'll get there. The other thing really is, if we focus on the positive, we can do no wrong. And I really trust my instincts when I read something to feel the energy coming off of it, like the positive or negative energy, or that when I listen to a clip or see a YouTube video, there's no set pattern. There's no, okay, well, this audio was good and the video was here. I can't mathematically tell you what makes it work. I can tell you there's been big shows, big being 20, 30,000, 40,000 followers, right? Or more. Now, if they hit the millions, we really take a hard look at them. But 100,000 less, that's it. Yeah, I just don't see it. I don't see beyond them doing their show what they can bring to the table for all the different panels. And then there's been shows, 8 downloads for their views, or 10 listeners or whatever, that went, oh, this is perfect. This is great. It's not all vibes. I mean, it's experience too. Sarah Rose says, so it's all vibes. It's a little bit of experience. It's a little bit of, I don't know. It's Dirk Gently's holistic detective dragon contract. It's
I think sometimes if someone doesn't have like a large audience, but they're playing to like a specific niche too, and they know what they're doing.
And I guess because I've done it all, like the production and so I know the basics of what goes into your niche and so you could be on this panel and talk about this thing. Stoner Gump last year, I had to kind of talk him into coming, because as soon as he heard of it, like he was messaging me, I messaged him first and he's, oh yeah, let's talk. But his whole thing was, I don't know what I do there. I was like, well, okay, I'll do some interview panels with you, no worries. But you could do this panel and this panel. And sure enough, because he built a brand and he makes his money off of that brand. So he was on like digital media Shark Tanks. He wrote books and this and like how to make products essentially. And so when people were asking, he had his own advice to give along with the rest of the panel. And that's the kind of thing that I look for there. There was a question here. Yeah. Okay. And I will address this, because I'm all about addressing things as we go. Apparently on Twitch, there's been some issues with Kevin's audio, but on the podcast recording and on my side of the recording, he's going through clear. But now Shanda's saying, and Fader Monk's both saying they can hear you on Twitch. It's just some weird glitchy thing going on there. I don't know.
It's new software.
Well, for me, it's new, but this is actually browser based, just like StreamYard.
Yeah.
So, and it's by Streamlabs.
Yeah. It's new for me.
Yeah.
I didn't do well in science in school. So.
Science. Okay, let's see. Divakate says, Charles, who's your biggest critic? Well, I am. I mean, in the story, I always will be.
I have a hard time.
Yeah. Okay. So what's funny is Tyra feels like she's a big critic, but you're not. Your whole partnership part of this is to help me be better. We're helping each other be better. And that's the agreement we have, unsaid and said of that. So she sharpens me. She gives me a better point. And only rarely do I go, no, I know better. I'm going to do it anyway. And that's rare. It's very much, okay, let me take her advice in, and it's made me better. Critically, you know, it is myself. I cannot celebrate any Dragon Con. I don't walk out of any of those going, man, we had a great year. I know we had a great year. I can feel it. I try to say it out loud as we're going on, man, this is a great year. But when it comes to Monday afternoon, it's like, I just that guy. Okay, this could be better. This could be better. We can tighten this up. We can do this better. And then I go get some rest, and then I start that path. And he said, what I mean, who gives you better? Oh, I guess you should have read the rest of the question. Who gives you your best honest feedback on your performance? Okay, well, that's Tyra for my performances and that's kind of thing. And Phil Keating, we have a little group we call Trust the Process, and we're not super active in that group. And I really, because I know I'm driving, I need to just get in there and make some more questions, some more comments, so we can all shape each other better. Well, in the sense of Dragon Con, there's a couple of things. One is seeing the crowd react, right? When I said earlier, you asked me what was my most favorite thing about the evolution into the digital media track, is that it didn't fail, is that the ideas were good. And how I know the ideas were good is the audience. There's audience there. There's so much more audience there. And when they come, they are getting what they're looking for. And that's all I'm trying to do, is make experiences happen. And you got to figure out if that's your experience or not. And that's why we have so many different ones going on throughout the track. So that lets me know that things are good. The feedback, you know, I do have a smaller circle of people, the volunteers. We definitely have a special chat, and we have our meetings where we come up with ideas to make. Nobody ever says anything goes wrong, which I love about this. We don't rip it apart. We go, okay, this is what happened. Here's the solution. Here's where we can work towards the better. And that's always a great thing. Then yeah, you know, really I need people to say it was good, more or less. And Tyra does that. And then the other thing was throughout the con, especially regulars will come up and be like, oh man, you know, this is going so well. Oh, this is the best year ever. Or, you know, last year I changed the room layouts. And I'll tell you, Kevin, it was a hard sell, which, I mean, I didn't have to sell. I'm like, I don't care. We're doing it because I know this is right. But it was a hard sell. Nobody could vision it like I visioned it. But once they saw the papers, you know, like the layouts, and they could really look at it. And then once we actually got there and did it, it was like, oh, I got it. And there's that.
That's awesome.
Let's see what we got here. Oh, have you ever had a track at Dragon Con you had your doubts about, but ended up exceeding your expectations? And that's from Devo again. Yeah. I don't know if I want to say, but yes. Okay, I'll say the Cruniolas and Adventures. I always mess with them. I've messed with them other names so many times. I get it wrong every time now. It's not Adventure Inc. I think that's McElroy's. It's their Dragon Con pod. I don't think they do it anymore, but it was their D&D podcast that the year that botched blew Galleria 6 out, like standing room only. You could hear everybody laughing from the other side of the escalators, blew it out. D&D podcasting just got electrified. And a lot of people started throwing in, let's do our live play. Let's do our live play. And I listened to theirs like, man, I don't know that this will do well live, but I gave them a shot and it did great. It did fantastic. And now, even though they don't bring that podcast to the con anymore, the Cruniolas themselves are hosting on the main stage and doing amazing work. You know, I'll tell you another one that I thought was the dumbest thing. It happens to be Phil and Mike Cruniola. They did a Pokédexpert, and I thought this is the dumbest idea for a podcast, much less a live show. But you guys did well last year. I trust Phil. He thinks it's funny. It blows the room out. it blew the room out to the size that they need a bigger room. And like, I never would have thought in a million years that that would happen. But I'm glad I just went with, I trust you guys.
And it's cool that you're trying stuff like that. I've been on panels with Stephanie, and she always like brings her absolute A+ game. Like she is always like super prepared. Like shout out to Stephanie.
Well, I drive her crazy, and she drives me crazy, because if we sat on the same panel of, what's the best way to moderate, we're bumping heads a little bit, because she likes to really get the questions down, and really because she over prepares, and that works for her, where I'm like, 5 bullet points and let's roll, man.
That was the first panel we did together. That was absolutely the situation, because she was sort of like, oh, can you like do some pre-work and stuff? And I was like, I wrote some bullet points.
But it works for her. And that's the key, is you can never push somebody into what you want and what works for you. You got to figure out how to move forward together. Whatever works for them works for them. I want to ask you this. So Sarah Rose wants to bring a panel about wrestling, and I need more details on it. Actually, you know what, Sarah, just go ahead and submit it. Do the work, put the title in, give me a description, sell me on it.
A week and a half to submit this,
because I don't get it. Well, I don't have enough details. So like, well, what is it going to be? Because while we're a reality track, as in that's what we do, I know they don't do a direct podcast about wrestling. I do know it'll absolutely bring people in, but I don't know. We'll see. Just give me some detail. Not DMs. No, I need it submitted through the official Google spreadsheet. I don't know what that sound was, but Google spreadsheet it is. All right. And we'll go from there. Let me bring this one from Joe, because it's slightly different here. Let me ask you, I'll look this up. Kevin, what has been your favorite thing about the journey from the podcast track to digital media track?
Obviously, like I was a huge fan of the early days of podcasting, but I think it's been really awesome to see how video has come into this, because that's, for the longest time, that was like where I made my money professionally. And it's been interesting seeing kind of other aspects of digital come into it. Like, I don't know a ton about Twitch streaming, but getting to learn about that. So it's been really great seeing it like have so many different facets, even where last year our pal Sarah Rose hosted a immersive theater panel on the digital media track that I got to be on. And there are a few things I love more than immersive theater. So the digital media track has, it's been cool seeing like how many different things it has touched on. Maybe wrestling, who knows?
I mean, I'm not opposed to it. It is very in line with nerd fantasy fandom, all that jazz, right? I would love to get, I tried to get, cannot think of his name right now, but he's an African-American wrestler that Tony P. Henderson and I were trying to get for the track. He'd come every once in a while, but he did a podcast and he loved nerdy. He loved like gaming and anime and those kind of things. But I think his star was so much on the rise in the WWE that he was just consistently busy. So even if he got to come to Dragon Con, it was just a thing. And I can't remember his name, but I know I reached out to him, and him or his people reached back and said that. I was like, hey, we're sorry, we're super busy. I think it was his people, because the thing is, if he even gets to make it, it's just going to be a pop in, enjoy the con for a day and pop out kind of thing. So I'm open to it, Sarah. I'm open to it. All I'm saying. Are you going to jump from the top rope if I let you have the panel? It's just there.
I'm going to want to see some timeless Tony Storm cosplay in that audience if it happens.
I want some mashups. I want Incredible Hulk Hogan to show up on that one. Or Macho Machine Randy Savage. All right, Joe sent this one. This is slightly different. Okay, what are the most important things to consider on making your brand? Now, Kevin, you've been making your brand for many many years. What's your answer to that?
Well, that's sort of the one of the panels I pitched to the track this year. So stay tuned at DragonCon, maybe. Uh, what I have found to be the most challenging is finding a nexus between kind of my personal like brand where it's like nerd punditry and podcasts about skateboarding and weird comic books and immersive theater, and my professional brand where I'm you know, doing corporate branding and video production and visual storytelling on a more professional level. And I've been trying to find synergies there. And I don't think I'm everywhere I want to be there yet, but I feel like I started podcasting at work. And so finding ways to do that. I've been talking about that with Tyra a bit because I think she's dealing with a similar thing. So I think when you're trying to build your personal brand, figure out what story you're telling about yourself. And, obviously like Charles, you're the rock god of podcasting. So
Yeah.
that's a tagline unto itself. With me, it's probably a little more all over the place than it should be because I'm into immersive theater, I'm into punk rock, I'm into Dungeons and Dragons, I'm into comic books, but also it's kind of I've decided that that's kind of who I am, so I'm just going to go with it. I feel like my best stuff in the world podcast would probably do better if I focused on one of those things, but I compromise enough with the stuff I do professionally that I'm just like I'm just going to put everything I like in here.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's I can't give you good branding advice. I can just tell you what I did. And that is you got to know yourself. And I liked what you said about wrapping things together and telling that story. And that's just what you decided. Um, it does depend on what you're doing, but more and more and more, my brand is coming together from the EMS world to the corporate world to the DragonCon world to then the fuller, bigger digital media world. There was a slider of you always got me, but I wouldn't mention the Rock Out podcasting until you got halfway up that meter, and then the rest of that meter is Rock Out podcasting. The other way is, okay, I can talk to this audience, or I'm this COO, or I'm this EMS kind of person, whatever. But it's more or less coalescing because I've grown into who I am, if that makes sense. And the biggest, first off, the one point I can give you, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this too, Kevin, is always know that you can change your brand. Always. As you grow, I mean, Coca-Cola, right? How many logos and brands have they gone through to where they were this thing and this thing? Where are the polar bears? Bring the polar bears back. You know? But
New Coke, which was an unparalleled success.
All right.
But like think of branding as storytelling, and what story do you
Yeah.
want to tell about yourself?
Yeah. I'm actually looking at a little logo that I had with, I still have, with a skull with headphones on and flames in the background and Metallica font, Rock Out of Podcasting. And that was what I was pushing for then. But now, my brand is much, whenever you see it, you go, oh, that makes sense. Like my CM for Charles McFall is this video dial with audio waveforms, and it's kind of edgy but also trustworthy. There's just, you grow, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately you find your style, and then you can really start building up, locking in your brand or refining it, is that kind of thing.
And I find it work. Like I was getting my dumb podcasts out there about the stuff I like, and like earlier this year, the singer from my favorite band emailed me and said, "Hey, I'm doing a book tour and I'm doing a book event in Boston. Will you interview me on stage?" And it was because of the podcast stuff, because he was saying like, "Who can I get to interview me in Boston?" And I knew his wife, and his wife was like, "Oh, my friend Kevin does this podcast and he loves your band. Listen to his podcast. He can interview people." So I think that helps too.
Yeah, man. That's I don't know who that would be for me, but I've always thought that'd be cool to find that actor or that musician or that author who we just click with. I really like what they do to go, hey, I need somebody to help me talk. Because there's as an interviewer it sounds like you're the same way, but as an interviewer, my biggest goal is to make you look good and keep it fresh for you. So even if we did a tour of, I don't know, 10 interviews across cities or whatever, book tour is, I would be able to ask the same question in a different way to keep it fresh. You're telling those stories different every time. Um, that's man. So did you do it already, or are you going to get to do
I
it?
did it already. It was
And how'd it
great.
go?
It was awesome. It was great. And the place was sold out. And honestly, having done panels at Dragon Con and things like that made it not scary to me at all. Like I've been on stage in front of people.
No, I guess one of the secrets to success that I have with the digital media track is I don't understand the differences in anything. And so you're talking about being on stage. If I have a microphone, to me, it is the same whether I'm sitting here talking to somebody, sitting here on camera, or sitting on a stage in front of 3,000 people. It's no different for me. And so I had a friend of mine I used to work with, our Morning Mon, Success Freaks, and his living is acting a fool on a Renaissance stage and 5 shows a day. And he's up in his comedy, and it's really good comedy, and it's really worked out well. And they've refined it, and it's a great show. They even have an improv show at the end of the day, which is their best because improv is great. And they have their cornerstones, but they just make it up as they go to hit those cornerstones. Great show. And then he and I were going to do a motivational one-day conference, a Success Streaks conference. And we had a bunch of speakers leading up to it. And we had our basic co-speech put together. And he kept wanting to rehearse it. I'm like, why, man? And he's just so nervous, so scared. And he would literally, as I'm setting up stuff and doing all the tech the day before, he's on the stage trying to visualize the crowd, and he's sweating. It's like, what is your problem? He goes, it's not the same thing. I'm like, it is. People are just people. That's comedy. What we do is a podcast, and this is just doing our podcast on our feet. I don't understand the difference. And I feel bad for those who do understand the difference because it's not a world I want to live in.
I found it required like a little bit of a headspace shift. Because I got my start like doing college radio. And so I was used to just being a voice on a microphone. And so shifting from that to doing like either stuff on stage or video stuff live, I eventually got to where you got, Charles, but I think sometimes, it can take a mental leap or like to figure that out.
Practice. You said this at the beginning of the show, that your first panel, you did it, you learned some things, you came back differently the next year with panels, and you're one of your big takeaways was too many people. You did it, you learned from it. That's how you get from sweating the details to not sweating the details, is keep practicing and refining. And you can only prepare so much. Quite literally, as a track, I prepare. I mean, I've been starting right after the con, but it's a very slow start and ramps up speed up till July 1st, I believe it is. They shut out the database and my hands are off. Mm-hmm. I got to be done by July 1st. Then that's it. I've prepared as much as I can. Now it's time just to wait till we go to the con and it'll be what we make it.
And you can prepare as much as you want for a panel, but you don't know who's going to be in that audience, and you don't know what they're going to spark to and what you're talking about. So you need to be able to move towards that too. The audience is such a huge part of like how you need to be able to improvise when you're doing this.
You got to let it breathe. You got to let it live. It being the topic, the panel, the moment. What we're doing is creating experiences for people. And that experience could be the book talk panel, where they're there to talk about how we do books on TikTok and, the book talk community, but they leave that space for people to ask the questions. And when you leave that space, it just breathes. And nobody may never ask a question, but it becomes that experience that they wanted. One of my favorite ones was an early show I did called Breaking the Panel. And we did it live at Dragon Con, 10 people. 10 people in the audience. It was a generic 4 guys talking comic book stuff and, media, the same broham crap that we all do, and with our own twist on it. Right. It was a little more, you had me in there. She had the storytelling and the deep thoughts and whatnot. And you had, Chris Wisdom in there with the witty, sharp banter, and Paul Klotz was a big nerd. And Brian Ibbett, I think was the fourth. I couldn't remember who the fourth was for a minute. But anyway, we were doing it live at Dragon Con, and because we really wanted to let this thing just breathe and flow, we ended up getting a moment with this young lady in the audience. She asked some question, and instantly one of our panelists, or one of my other guys, just ripped off a sexist joke at her and killed. I mean, everybody laughs, but she picks up a chair and acts like she's going to throw it at us, which was even funny. I know it's hard to explain. It's like, that sounds scary. You just had to be there. It's the moment, the energy was right, that we knew she wasn't going to throw the chair, and she almost went to do it. We're like, oh, don't do that. And of course, everybody's like, she put it down. Well, then she became chair girl for the rest of the con. Then she joined our community and would comment as chair girl in the chat, and it builds new moments. Good.
I was gonna say she could be on the wrestling panel with the folding chair.
With the folding chairs. Sarah says, question, I want to be on Awesome Together. Other than filling out the form, I already have. How can we go on the schedule? That's a Tyra thing. Once you're on the form, we try to get it to flow. She had her class made, is how they say it in the upper university blah blah blahs. So enough people signed up that her class on Wednesday nights for the next 4 weeks is going to happen. And so that, I know we have guests lined up the first 2 dates in April and on, I do believe, but it's just a matter of, we sit down, she and I, we talk about that maybe once a month, and she really handles, because she knows I don't care. I'll talk to anybody, and I love it. So she tries to handle the forms and the questions and all that. So I know you're on the list, Sarah. I know it's coming. And to me, it's finally a good problem to have, that for the longest time, I was trying to get people to talk to and get people on. And it just takes that momentum and that build to come up to where now we are getting, both from the Dragon Con world and outside the Dragon Con world, people lined up each week to where we're booked out for, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks. And I'm happy for it, and Sarah, you'll make it. You'll make it. Kevin keeps PayPaling me. We'll make it happen one day. All right. You have any other questions?
I've moved to Venmo, Charles.
Oh, I thought it was Cash App. My bad. Do you have any questions off the top of your head? So I got one here from ChatGPT. Yeah.
Let's go for a ChatGPT question.
I love ChatGPT. It's my bestest friend. How do you handle last minute cancellations or schedule changes? Define last minute, because as close as we've gotten was a week before con. We haven't had anybody have any major changes at con. And how we handle that is, I keep some, we only have so many time slots. So I try to flow the fill in and this and that and the other. And then I have what's called an on deck list. And that's exactly what it is. And last year, somebody pulled out, I think for this specific one, somebody pulled out about a month before the con. So I went to my list and went to Sketching Shakespeare. Sketching Shakespeare had not quite made the cut. And there's a lot of things that go into that. I know both Swan and Steph do a great job with it. It's fun, but they had a number of other commitments going on. And so because of their commitments and because they had other panels also on Digital Media Track and they were showing, I was like, okay, that one didn't cut it. However, when that late night panel dropped off, that was the first one I went to and said, hey, do you want this slot? And within an hour, like, yeah, we'll take that slot. No problem. I mean, other than that, Kevin, it's like you do your own panels. We stack it with 4 to 6 people.
And stuff happens. Sometimes someone can't make it, but then you just kind of pivot. I've certainly been in situations where like a panelist can't make it last minute. Like sometimes someone's sick.
Yeah, and that happens often enough. But that's why we pack it as much as we can. Because then you're down to 4 or 3 people, or 2, and that's the thing. If it's a panel, myself or a number of people off the top of my head that I know in the circle that are there, that I'll tell a story in a second, but in the circle that are there, that I can go, hey, here's the topic, Kevin, here's the topic. It's about video production, but it's specifically for YouTube. But I know you could really help out with this. And just, I need you to moderate and you jump in because it's a something you're an expert at, right? And you know how to ask those questions. That's how we do that. And if it shifts from, let's say it's a live show that they can't come and somehow it's last minute, like they got sick at the last minute and they can't be there. We've tried it. Well, we would always do some kind of last minute swap up with something, enough people are there that we can jump in and say, hey, let's just put together a panel real quick and talk about, I don't know, Borderlands. I don't want to talk about Borderlands, the movie. It was not good.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've certainly been in situations where like the moderator hasn't shown up and I've been asked to moderate at the last minute, which, is not as good as if you have time to prepare, but you can certainly like, sketch out some notes and be like, let's do this. And it's usually gone. Like I don't think the audience has noticed like a vast difference. So that's nice. But I also think that's a skill you can develop.
Yeah. And the other thing too is you need to be missed. And one of the unspoken rules at Dragon Con, I mean, okay, it's spoken, but it's not a rule. You know what I'm saying? It's a guideline, it's an idea. At Dragon Con, we like to keep it fresh. So you typically won't see the same celebrities there every year. They'll come 2 or 3 years and then we'll just give them a break for a little while. And the same thing, Botch is a staple. Botch will keep coming back. But their game show they did not come back last year because they wanted to revamp it. They weren't cool. You're not going to bring it to the table. And people missed it. People missed a number of things that aren't come back. It's like, yeah, no, they were great. They were amazing. The door is open. They just, for whatever reason, couldn't bring it this year. And that helps when people are like, oh man, especially your fans, if they reach out to you. I missed you this year, that kind of thing. I'm going to ask you this question, Kevin. What advice would you give to someone looking to become involved in convention programming?
It depends. Honestly, it depends on the convention. So are we going to talk about Dragon Con or are we going to talk about smaller?
Let's talk about Dragon Con and then a generic con.
Okay. Let's talk about, so for Dragon Con, obviously, I feel like each track sort of has their own process. So I would figure out which track most aligns with your interest and see where those people congregate. For digital media, it's the Discord. For some of the other ones, there are Facebook groups. And I would hang out there and see what the vibe is and then try and be helpful and suggest something. Say, hey, I'd be interested in helping out with X. And because I think a lot of tracks will take a chance on an unknown quantity, but they won't put you on 17 different things because they don't know you. But I think they'll, so I think it's that. I think a lot of the tracks are pretty open about, giving a chance to new people. I think digital media is, American science fiction fantasy, I think is, likes to give people chances to be on panels. If you check out their Facebook group. So I think some of it's that and figuring out what panels get posted or that you can propose where you have a point of view and a perspective. Because people are taking their time to go see you talk. So I think if you do your best to make it worth their while to do that, to value add, which isn't to say like script out everything you're going to say, but try not to go up there and just like wing it.
Yeah. Well, before you go up there, you can wing it from the floor. So a couple things, people need to see you. They need to connect with you. So the first, I love that you mentioned the Facebook group because every track is different. We have a Discord. We don't do much on Facebook. There are tracks that do a lot on Facebook. They have other ways to meet or connect or whatever, right? So find where it is you want to be. For the generic cons, I mean, I'm going to Stellar Fest in 2 weeks, and I tracked down Conjuration and made it a point to reach out to Angela and Chris, who run Conjuration, and say, "Hey, I want to be a part of your show." And when I did that, because we had met loosely through other means previously during COVID, uh, but I was really fired up at the beginning of last year. So in January, I'm finding emails for the cons I want to go to, and I'm emailing my submissions with links to videos of what I've done, hosting panels, game shows, talking on my podcast, because they need to see who you are. And so now, last year I got to play Conjuration, and this year I'm getting to play Stellar Fest and Conjuration. And so you just got to find out where they are and how to get to them. They do have and they were, I told the story about doing it in January for October, and Chris was like, man, this is so great. We don't even open up submissions until like July, but I'll send you a link, and yeah, I think this is awesome. And so I put it on my calendar in July, and I went back and like any business, be prepared for no's or to get ghosted. I submitted to a lot of cons that never hit me back, but my favorite that I showed out and showed up in was Atlanta. Is Atlanta Comic Convention now, is Atlanta Comic Con then. They sold and got a new owner, that's why it's a different brand. And again, I found the programmer's email and hit her up. And I did hey, I'm just so you know, I do run a track at Dragon Con, so I'm familiar with content. I do this, I do that. I would love to come and help you with your needs, hosting or bringing some content, whatever. And just ghosted for a month. I knew it's a brand new year. So I'm like, I really want to try again. So I reached out again, and she went, do you have anything to show me? And I hadn't thought about sending that to her. So I went to my YouTube, found some very specific videos. So like, here's me on stage doing this thing. Here's me hosting or doing like a live event here. And here's just 3 things, just clips. Like, this is not specifically what you do, but this will show you how I said that this will show you how I carry myself on stage and in different situations. And then she came out with the email and went, okay, cool. I'd like you to moderate our celebrity panels, please.
Awesome.
And then we worked that out. Yeah. And so you just got to be present. The showing out before you get up on the stage, the winging it, as it were, any comment, go to the panel you enjoy and actively think of a question that you want to hear about as they're talking. It could be something you already know the answer to. Like, I got up on Faber. Mike Faber did a panel on networks, and I was in the audience. So they were unintentionally, they were dancing around this one question. I could just see it because I already knew the answer. So I stepped up and said, hey, I'm Charles McFall with, I don't remember what show I was with at that time. Yeah, I'm Rock Out of Podcasting, Wise and Nerdy, all that. And, bam, here's my question. And it really was in that moment a setup for them to go where they were trying to go. Now, you don't have to do that, but every panel I've ever gone to is you identify yourself and your brand, and then you give, right? You include that content, and that could be a question. That could be, hey, I really loved your work in this movie. Could you tell me what you loved about doing that movie? Whatever it is. And people take note. Then after that panel, as best you can, like if you go to the big celebrity panels, they're going to clear the room. You're not going to have a chance to meet the director. But if you go to their track a little bit later, track them down, you got to do the work. You track them down, you find the director and go, hey, this is who I am. And usually they'll go, in my experience, oh yeah, man, you asked that awesome question. Yeah, I would love next year to be a part of your program. How do I submit to be a part of what you do?
And yeah, it's networking, I think, is a huge part of it.
Yeah.
It's
everything.
The first convention panel I ever did was at San Diego Comic-Con, which is, 100-something thousand people, because my friends had a comic book out. They had a panel. The moderator dropped out and we're like, can you moderate this? And from then I was like, well, if I did this at San Diego Comic-Con, I could probably do it at other
Doing it anywhere,
places.
yeah.
And so then at Rhode Island Comic-Con, they were like, hey, do you want to interview the cast of Buffy the Vampire Slayer? And I was like, hell's yes, I want to interview the cast of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay, I've
on
heard great
stage.
things about Rhode Island Comic Con. I need you to get me in there.
I'll see who I can talk to. Yeah, Rhode Island Comic-Con is a fun time. And I've submitted panels there just about documentary filmmaking that they've let me do.
Nice. See what we did there?
Networking.
It's something I've been trying to knock on a door there, and I can't get it. And there's an end, because never be afraid to ask, as long as you're going to give. I find it hard to explain. Maybe you can help clarify my words, Kevin. There's a way to ask that's not just gimme, gimme, gimme. There's an energy to gimme, gimme, gimme that's just gross. But there is, if somebody doesn't know you're interested, I cannot tell you how many times, as director of the digital media track, I've gone, I would love to be on your show. And I get the, what, really? We had no idea you would like to talk. Have you? But if you don't say, I would love, I mean, who wouldn't want to do San Diego Comic-Con? But that is a different beast. I need them to pay me, because that's across the country and all that jazz.
Yeah.
That's whatever. That'd be fun, but yeah. But Rhode Island, I was like, hey, we worked. Is that collaboration is a better word for it, Kevin?
Yeah. When
you're asking for something, but you're also giving at the same time.
Biggest little state in the union, Charles. I find and I find it like at Dragon Con, I don't know what kind of secret sauce goes into the approval or rejection of attending pro applications, but like what I try and do is just, if I feel like I've done stuff that has added value to the con, to highlight that in the application in years past, and be like, I DJ'd this thing and it had this many, positive things in the app, and it filled the room, and I was part of this thing that had a lot of people. And so, and just to kind of like highlight that, because I know no one's going to Dragon Con to see me, but just to, just to kind of highlight, okay, I've done these things that have added value to the con, which is why I'm applying for this.
Yes, that is. If you do a good deed and nobody knows about it, are you happy enough with the reward just being that you did something good? And that's fine. Yes, that can be the answer. Some people do that. Originally at Dragon Con, that was the way I was rolling. It's like, hey, I'm trying to get my star risen. I'm trying to get people to see me. I'll bring my value to the con and we'll help each other out. But I wasn't looking to be more involved in the con at the time. But it worked out that way, right? Because I saw their value, they saw my value, this and that, and the other. But if you do, like you just said, Kevin, you've done this panel, you DJ'd this thing, and you paid to do that, basically, because you were not attending pro, so you had to buy your badge, right? So you paid to do your thing with them. And then when you can highlight that, they can go back, whoever it is, I know Regina looks at a lot of it. I know she has a team that looks at things. And then there's other areas, like the DJing thing is not Regina. That's a whole different ballgame, right? So they go, oh, you said, hey, I did this at Dragon Con, I did this at Dragon Con, I did this at Dragon Con. They go look at it and go, oh, here's a video from that, or here's the feedback from that, or let me reach out. A lot of times, let me reach out to that director that said yes to that person, say, tell me more about this person. And it really is about, can you use them for 4 panels in the week a lot of times? And sometimes I go, yeah, I can. Sometimes like, I can give them 2, I can give them 1, and then another director will have to come in and go, I can give them whatever. We work together that way. But also, I'm trying to think of a con. Oh, no, I'm not going to call it out, but there's a con that I'm going to give up on because it changed hands, and I'm still knocking on the door when I was a heavy hitter for the previous person who ran it. And I don't even know who the new person is. So I'm like, well, if I don't get picked this year, I'll try again next year, and then that'll be it. Because ultimately, you only want to go where you can go. I knocked on the door of Southern Fried Gaming Expo for 2 or 3 years before I finally just hit the right note at the right time with the right energy. Same guy running it, same helpful Bobby Blackwolf dropping my name and saying, hey, you should check this guy out. and it just kept feeling right. And I got to play it last year, and I presume because we did well, we actually talked to the guy who ran it. He appreciated what we did. I presume I'll get to play it again this year, but I haven't heard specifically. So that's a lot of words. One more question for because Joe, our sort of geekdom popped in here, and he asked this question: what do you look for in a co-host?
Someone you have chemistry with, I think, is the biggest thing. Someone who is different from you, but who has a similar sensibility. I think that you can have kind of a shorthand and a wavelength with. I'd say that's what I look for in a co-host.
I'm going to say it from a little bit more emotional standpoint. I agree 100% there. Same with panelists, right? You either have to have a panelist that you vibe with that has just different points of view, or you both have to be adult enough to have different opposing points that you can argue in a fun way and not make it an ugly, dramatic thing. But I prefer the first one, which is the chemistry. I say you see the world the same way, you're just getting there differently. I honestly, for me, I have to have a co-host who wants to go where I'm going. And every project I do now, the question I ask is, if the opportunity came up because we are getting money coming in, or we're getting asked to go to this place and do this show, or this place do this show, you will either take off your work or ultimately quit your job to do this, because that's exactly where I'm at. And if you can't be on that even playing field, I'm not asking you to quit today, but if you were going to, we get there, I'm letting you know right now, I got to drop this. If you're going to say, well, no, I always like my job, I don't see myself quitting. Cool. You're a good person. You're fun, but this is my career. And I'm not going to build something that I love building and then have people knock on the door and go, hey, we want to sponsor you, or we want to pay you to come to do this, or invite you to speak here, and my partner won't go. So you do have to have that balance of what if willingness.
What's interesting about that to me is that is a very similar thing that people who have been serious about being in bands have said to me about what they look for in people to be in their band. Is they have to be all in.
Right. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I've definitely played in a few bands. You've never heard of them because we were crap. That we weren't all in. None of us. It was all just kind of a, let's try this, try that thing. I need somebody who actually thinks I'm funny and I'm awesome. Right. And believes in, and whether they can see where we're going or not, believes in it. And thinks they're funny and awesome. Now you can have some imposter syndrome. You can have some. Everybody loves Tyra, right? And Tyra will say, "Oh well, I'm not great at this," and she is. I mean, she's getting better at everything. Sure, we will not pull punches with each other. Honesty and love, right? But she has refined so much and done so much better from where she started, and she'll even admit that. You don't have to be the rock goddess of podcasting, but you do have to have some kind of belief that you can do it. Otherwise, why are we doing this together? Then you have to love each other to a certain point. You have to, and that builds chemistry. You talked about the chemistry.
Yeah.
It's you can't do the bad days if you're not going to like each other through the bad days. And balance. Oh, the emotional part. You have to have different damage than I have. We cannot have the same damage, because all we're going to do is grind each other's souls and just hate each other. We cannot do that. So that comes into knowing yourself. Have you ever worked with, it doesn't have to be a partner, but an interview, a panelist, whatever, that you went, oh, me and him are just like butting heads because we are the same, whatever.
It's because I have two podcasts. On my first one, I have a co-host, Gleaming the Tube, and that's someone I've known. That's someone I've been friends with since I was 13 years old, and we have a similar sense of humor, and it's a very easy kind of co-host situation. And for a while, we were having the occasional guest on too, and it was interesting to see which guests sort of were able to get into our flow and which ones weren't. And like we had talked about feedback earlier, and some of the feedback I got was the show is better when it's just the two of you. So, so I started my other show, Best Stuff in the World, which is just me as the constant, and that's where I bring in different guests and I'll interview people, or I'll do like a little mini panel with two other people where we'll discuss a different awesome thing. And so that's one where it's like, I really want to talk to this person about X. So, uh, so it depends, but I think like with a co-host on a podcast, like if you're doing it regularly, if it doesn't work, like the podcast will live and die on that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to believe what you believe and not worry about me in any of those cases. And hopefully, if you're lucky, you find the magic. And one of the best negative compliments I can get is when so Joe and I used to do Pokemon Go podcast, and we had 3 people, and that was good, but we ultimately just got it down to me and him at some point. And at that point, we were the show, because before that, I was told personally, probably like I was a tent pole. I knew it. I knew I was holding the show together between the people we had on it. It just we were still working out the chemistry. But once okay, it's Brian Ibbett, and he's amazing. Brian's amazing. It just wasn't the right place, right time. And once he stepped back, because he was doing America's Next Top Podcaster and other things, that he was missed, and we definitely lost people who were there for him. But the chemistry kind of really cooked in, and it became us. And the best negative compliment I could get at that point was, the show is not the same when one of you are gone. Like if he'd go off and I have a co-host, totally different thing. And same, totally different. The magic was when we were together, and that's ultimately what you look for, and you just gotta trust. Now I'm gonna throw this last one out because we're coming to time, but Kevin, would you say you cannot be afraid to go, I don't like that what you did there? Let's figure out a better way.
With a podcast co-host?
With any co-host, but yeah, we'll keep it that simple.
I'd like if someone's a guest on the show.
Well, that's different. Yeah,
I'm not gonna
your permanent project partner.
I'll just edit that bit out. The show. I think you need to be able to have like you said about your you and Tyra. You need to be able to each trust that what you want is for the show to be as good as it can be. And to be able to and to be able to say it in sort of a way that is indicating, like, I'm saying this because I want this to be good, not because I'm attacking you.
Yeah. Tyra and I've done some of that. It wasn't recorded. I don't think that was recorded. I have a video. We Tony and I did a game show twice in Pensacola through this con. One of them had video recording, the other one didn't. I don't remember which one we did. But at the end of it, I kind of stepped out there, as I do. I get a little risky with my jokes, and there was a young man who was picking a Wonder Woman watch as his prize, and I was like, "Oh, you're gonna give it to your girlfriend?" He's like, and it was very instantly obvious he's not the girlfriend kind of guy, and I played it off. He seemed cool. Tony and Tyra both like. Afterwards, in a constructive manner, like, can't do that. And at first I was like, I can do whatever the F I want, and no, listen, we had the audience, we didn't lose them, but that is such a thing that can go wrong. Let's refine that a little bit better. Let's not worry about significant others, right? It was a 3-minute bit at the end of the show. It could have left a bad taste in everybody's mouth if it had gone south, and it didn't. And it's that kind of refinement. I said, all right, I if I'm going to work with you guys for the future, I'm going to have to be brutally honest. So here's my honesty about that, but I'm also understanding kind of what you're saying. So what I will do is I will put a softer point on any of those jokes that I will make. And it's made me better. It has made me better for it. So you definitely, you need to have the ability to have that honesty with your partners, and sometimes it's just you handle that part. I don't do the booking on the show, and I don't do the promotions. Tonight I went out and did a little bit of promotion, but Tyra does it. It's what she does. It's her strengths, and she always And Jen Okaz, she helps do some vetting and do some research on them, on the guests. Tyra likes to have met you before she takes you on. So if she's going solo, she's only going to talk to people that she knows she can talk to. But we'll bring on fresh guests constantly without very much understanding of who they are, because she trusts it. That's my part, is I will that sometimes it's subtle, but she's learned to see. I'll shine the light on what we need to ask them by how I'm talking or this and that and other, and then she'll pick up on that. Sometimes it's obvious, but she knows that she can trust that I will break open that barrier, and that's how we work together. So
yeah, I think I did this show like a little over a year ago for the first time, and I didn't really know you were Tyra. Like, we met briefly at the con, but
as long as you give me more than yes no answers, we're good.
yeah.
And if you give me yes no answers, I'm gonna start harping on you. Like, you're killing me, bud. So if we had 3 people, I'm gonna do it here with you. If we had 3 people, I usually kick off personally. Hey, come here. Let's talk about how we're gonna set this just live on the air, right? Let's talk about how you're killing me on this bit, man. You gotta help me set up bits better, and just make it fun for people. Lots of great questions tonight. I thought there was some scheduled for next week, and Kaz says possibly not. So she did make a point I forgot to bring up about panel submissions and how we do things. We do blend ideas. So if 3 people submit a branding panel, depending on how it's written, like if it looks like, hey, these will work together, I will tend to put stuff together and say, hey, can you guys work on this jointly? Sometimes it's different enough that we put 2 different viewpoints of the same thing on there. It's just
when you get those 5 submissions for wrestling panels.
Yeah, that's your panel. It'll be Sarah, you, and the 3 other people who submit the wrestling panels. That Sarah's like, I want to pick. Nope, you want a wrestling panel? You got the 5 people who submitted wrestling panels. There you go. Y'all get out there and fight it out. But Kevin, where can they find more of your awesome work?
Gleamingthetube.net, which is in my little signature there, is where you can find both of my podcasts. Gleaming the Tube, which is about movies that involve skateboarding, which I do with my co-host Michael, and The Best Stuff in the World, which is more of a potpourri about different topics that I think are awesome or want to talk about, or sometimes I interview people who make weird theater. I think there's an episode coming out tomorrow with someone who does a dystopian science fiction immersive theater installation in Boston. So be on the lookout for those, and I'll be at Dragon Con doing something. Probably, I think I'm pretty sure I'm DJing on Thursday. I'm pretty sure there'll be some kind of dopey table read on Sunday, and probably a few other things.
I'm sure there'll be a few other things going on there. Let's see all my things here. We got Linktree/DC Digital Media Track is where you can join all the fun. It links you to our Discord, to the YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, everything that is out there. This will link you there. So come join our community. I don't understand why people hate Discord. I met 2 people now. It's not a lot, but 2 people. Both happen to be bald. I don't know if that's the thing, but bald people hate Discord, apparently, in my world. But I love Discord. I like the community there that we've built. I love that we connect. That's one other answer to how do I become a part of programming at DragonCon? Well, Digital Media Track. You just go jump into our Discord. You'll see all the announcements of submitting your panels. Then beyond that, let's say
the panel brainstorm channel in the Discord. I found super helpful, because that was like with the branding panel I submitted. I posted it in there. I said, "Is this a thing? Would any of you be interested in it?" Because I wanted to see if people liked the idea before bothering to write it up and submit it. You know, people added to that and made it better. So that's a really good channel to check out.
I think we have one need a panelist. It might be the need a guest might have merged with need a panelist, but ultimately, let's say you get your panel, Kevin, and you're like, all right, I know 2 people want to ask directly, but I have 2 other spots. You go out into the Discord going, this is the panel I'm doing. Or sometimes you reach out to me. It depends on how you want to do it. It's either way. But a message will go out. Hey, this is how this panel is working. We need a few more people. DM this person or DM me, and I'll connect you to the right place. So you don't have to have an idea yourself. You can just see what's out there, and you'll see all the versions of the schedule go out. So the rough one that'll come out. So if we're closing in March, it'll probably be by the 15th. We'll get the first rough schedule out of this is the basic schedule. And let me know if you're still interested as a moderators. Let me know that you're still interested. And then once everybody's good, start finding your panelists. So you can definitely become a panelist that way. And I love that. That was my whole dream for that community. This is before I knew about Discord. One of the first meetings I had at the end of DragonCon, they've always done the wrap up like I do now. And it was always hey, what can we do better this year? How can we make it a better experience? And I just carried that on. Monday is not me at all. Monday has been established since the beginning of time at DragonCon with Irish Nerd pub songs with Mark Gunn, and then the feedback wrap up panel to make things better. And one of the things that, man, there's got to be a way to open up the community, you open us up to the world for people like myself to come in and like, hey, I like what you're doing. Here's what I can bring to the table. Here's how I can help you be awesome. And then Discord came along, and that's exactly what our community is. People hire each other to do jobs. By the way, I've hired Audie Norman to do the logo for Wise and Nerdy, and it's coming out fantastic. And he is in our Discord. So if you need a logo for your show, he's amazing. He did good.
There's a lot of talented mother effers in there.
Yeah, you can get a DJ for your bar mitzvah right here. Kevin's in the Discord. Yeah, there's that.
I only play music I like.
I love it. That's so good. I like it.
I forgot to say with the DJ night, like at Thursday night at DragonCon, if you look for the MTV's 120 Minutes Dance Party, and we play classic alternative rock dance songs like New Order and Depeche Mode. It's on, I think it's on the atrium level of the Marriott. So if you can't get into the Bunny Hutch, go to that.
I love it. I love it. I did a Catholic funeral. Like, I'm gonna play Depeche Mode. I only play what I like. I'm sorry. Yeah. All right. So Tyra will be out for the next 3 weeks, but you can find her over at tyraburton.com. Or of course, go to her link tree, which is Tyra Burton, to all the awesome stuff that she does there. And you can find me. My link tree is RGOP42. And I've got a lot of big, cool things cooking and some announcements coming up this weekend from DragonCon that I'm excited about. So definitely tune in next week, because no matter what, it's going to be awesome. So why don't you come out and let's be awesome together. Thanks, Kevin, for jumping in and helping with the questions tonight.
Thank you for having me, Charles. Looking forward to seeing you at Con.